All right, good afternoon. I'm used to the evening classes, so good afternoon, everybody. It's Mike Oak here as Nick. Thanks for the introduction, and as Nick mentioned, we're very pleased to hold another one of Doc Talk without the doc, so to speak. Myself here, who's been involved with SMWW for oh goodness, almost 20 years. And we're joined by longtime NHL agent Rick Curran. Rick, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Mike. Nice to be with you and everyone that's on the Zoom call.
Well, it's nice to see you again, Rick. And before we get to a little bit about your story and your background, and then some questions from the folks that have joined us, I always say that the hockey world is small and you never know where you're going to run into people. And this summer, I was up in the Muskokas and I looked over and I see one of the former Laurier grads, Jake Arnott, and I was going to go over and then I did a double take and I'm like, just a second, I think Rick's with him. So, it's crazy how small the hockey world is, Rick, and just how, intertwined, teams, agents, players, coaches, they all truly are.
No question, Michael. It's funny. I always tell people at the beginning of our sessions that a big part of our hockey business is the relationships that everyone have with one another, and how important it is from day one that you recognize that the people that you'll meet, regardless of whatever entry level you happen to get into the hockey business, whether it be junior B, midget hockey, at any level, the people that you meet there from day one, chances are those that are successful, you will run into along the way. And to this day, people that I met within my first couple of years in the business that become so important to me later on, who are actually running NHL clubs. And it all comes back to those first occasions when you get an opportunity to be introduced to somebody. And I try to stress with the class how important it is that you make a good impression and recognize that those relationships will go throughout your career, and how important it is the reputation that you have for honesty, integrity, because whatever it is from day one, it will be that way for your entire career, and you hope it to be a long career in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get started. And as we do with either the conferences or, oftentimes when we have guests on, we're going to assume, Rick, you graduated high school. For the benefit of everybody here that may have not had the opportunity to meet you or know a lot about your background, can you share with us a little bit of your story from, post-secondary to where you are now as it relates to the hockey industry?
Okay, Mike, I think what I'll do is I'll quickly go through the opportunities that I've been provided, and I'll make it very quick. I got my start in the business while I was in high school. I was fortunate enough to get a job in the very beginning of the Bobby Orr Mike Walton Sports Camp in Aurelia, Ontario, Canada. Bobby was just coming onto the scene. It was 67, 68. And he had purchased Oasis Lodge up in Aurelia. And my twin brother and I had an opportunity to go and work as junior counselors. And that was, as I've alluded to earlier, an opportunity to meet a lot of people in the hockey business. In addition to Bobby and Mike Walton, there were a number of pros that played or that attended that camp. Jim Rutherford, Dale Talon, among others, that eventually went on to not only positive careers, but got involved in the business of hockey. I had an opportunity to work there for 10 years. I was in high school at the time in Toronto. and then had an opportunity to go to the US. A couple of gentlemen happened to be up watching some Junior B games, and was fortunate enough that I was playing in one of those games that they were watching, and they asked if I'd like to go to Merrimack College, which I did. So I had 4 years at Merrimack College, where I played for them, and during my graduating year, an opportunity came up. Alan Eagleson was given a mandate to take the National Hockey League back into the World Championships, and they were looking for somebody to be a business manager. And given the 10 years that I'd spent with Eagleson, and at the time my mentor Bill Waters, who was the camp director at the time and had recently become one of the premier player agents as a lieutenant to Eagleson's sports management firm. And I had an opportunity to become business manager of Team Canada 77, Team Canada 78, and the juniors in 77, 78, that of course was Wayne Gretzky's breakout period at the time. And in 78, in addition to doing management for Team Canada, I segued over to the representation end of the business as Bill Waters' assistant. So suffice to say that he was my mentor. As I've always suggested to people who are getting into the business, if you're fortunate enough to identify somebody that is going places in the business, and you become what I refer to as their most valuable player, somebody that provides them with everything that they need to be the best in their business, then you essentially become a valued commodity, and you have an opportunity to continue to grow within the industry. And I owe an awful lot to Bill Waters and to Bobby Orr. Interestingly enough, here we are years later, and Bobby and I are now partners. And so, having been given the opportunity to be a junior counselor, which is pretty much the low end of the totem pole at a hockey school.
That's tying skates.
Here we are.
That's code
40
word for tying skates.
It was. I had the youngest group, and my hands would be blistered from tying skates for 6 and 7-year-olds. And here we are 47, 48 years later, and we're now partners. So I won't bore you with the rest of the details, but suffice to say that you take advantage of every opportunity you have to meet the expectations and hopefully be provided with additional responsibilities and meet those expectations.
So I know we've got a great group here, Rick, and I know there's going to be lots of questions from folks that have joined us here tonight about the hockey industry, and specifically maybe your experience, an extensive experience working as an agent. But before we get to them, I've got one question here just because you brought it up. It's funny. You went from it sounds like you went from the management side, kind of managing a team, to the player advisement side and player representation. Bill Waters started as the player agent and moved over to team management. But just from your experience as a team manager, what did you learn in those roles that you feel helped you become the agent that you've become? And did it give you a better appreciation of and give you, hey, I got to look at this I'm looking out for the best interest of my client, but I also know and have a pretty good understanding of what the team, what they're trying to accomplish when it comes to negotiations.
Well, you do, Michael, understanding that the management role that I had was with an elite group of players. It was a Team Canada select group. So it's a little different than what you would experience at your level with dealing with major junior players or with someone at the National Hockey League level. But what you recognize is that every young player, all he wants to do is play the game. All he hopes is to be provided with an opportunity. And what I did learn that at that time, that the greatest contribution you can make as a player agent is to be honest with the player that you're dealing with your client, to provide him with a level of communication. He wants to know, what is it that I need to do to play? And what you want to do as a player agent is hopefully have a reputation and a relationship, a rapport with management, that you can get that information that you need to be able to provide to the player. And what you hope is that eventually the teams will recognize that what you want, what you're looking for, is an honest answer. And as an agent, you have to be able to provide the player and his parents these days, which has become more important than ever, with an honest assessment of what your client is capable of and what is expected for him to do in order to continue to be successful, or to move someone out that he's trying to beat out for a position. And you have to be able to look them straight in the eye and make them understand that you're going to tell them what they need to know, and it may not be necessarily what they had expected to hear.
Some great insight there. Enough from me. I'm sure I'll have some other questions that come along, but let's get to the group that's joined us here to get a better understanding of what it is like to work in hockey, specifically in the role of a player agent. And let's start out with Abby. And Abby, if you want to give us a quick introduction of where you're from, and then a question or comment you have for Rick. Go ahead, Abby.
She's in a class right
She's
now.
in a class right now, so we'll
Good for
skip
you,
her. She's
Abby.
yeah, doing love it, double duty. Let's go to Brett. Brett, let's go to you. Go ahead with a introduction and then a question or comment you have for Rick.
So my name's Brett Cox. I'm from Canada. I'm actually an assistant superintendent right now. And my son, though, is graduating from sports management. He's going to school in New York. He's at hockey practice right now. So I've signed up for everything he's going to try to join with as well. So I just wanted to sit in and listen. Been involved in junior and in college for a lot of years, and just appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, where are you located, Brett?
Just outside of Edmonton, Alberta.
Okay, very good. And so just before we go to Carter, Rick, mentioned about school. A lot of changes recently in the last really 8-9 months as it relates to opportunities for players. Maybe your perspective on, now with the changing landscape, NCAA adjusted their rules so that major junior players would be eligible following graduation from the CHL. Any thoughts and on how that is going to shake out over the coming seasons?
Well, Michael, I'll tell you, I just got off the phone with my son, Mike, whom you know. And frankly, over the course of the 8 weeks, toward the end of the sessions, when we start to get involved with starting your own agency, and we start to talk about recruiting and providing parents and players with their options, and helping them to understand what their legitimate options may be. All of my experience has been in the past, leading up to the last 2 or 3 years of recruiting. Michael does all of our recruiting, he and William and Danny. And what you may expect if you're attending the class is that toward the last 2 or 3 weeks, Michael will be providing the class with an in-depth review of what the most recent specifics are dealing with young players and the choices that they have to make. During the early sessions, I'll provide a little bit of an idea of what the history has been, only to give everyone a flavor of where it's been. But Michael will be coming in and providing all the most recent specifics for their edification.
Sounds good. Let's go to Carter. Carter, go ahead with an introduction and then question or comment you have for NHL agent Rick Curran. Carter, do we have you there? All right. What do we if we're having technical difficulties, we can reach out. We'll move down to Dan. Dan, go ahead with an introduction and then question or comment you have for Rick.
Hi, my name is Dan Bowman. I am in Idaho Falls, Idaho, taking the hockey analytics course currently, or just finished it. And I didn't play hockey. I just have become a fan of hockey, given the local team here. We house players here, and just become a fan of hockey. And so I don't have a lot of experience, but what advice would you give someone who is passionate about the sport but didn't play and wants to kind of break into the industry in some form or fashion, and break that barrier to, hey, you never played hockey, so you don't know what you're talking about?
Well, I mean, there are a number of people that have made tremendous contributions to the game at every level who never happened to have played hockey. So although there are obvious advantages if you've played the game, I think just the willingness to be there and to learn and to spend time with people who have had experience, as you get involved, whether at the minor level or at the junior level, as you contribute your time and effort and learn from those that are around you, you're going to have asset value. And I think that what happens is, again, we talked about it earlier, the more people that you meet, the relationships that you have, and the opportunity that you have to spend time with people who are successful at whatever level you're dealing with, will enhance your opportunities going forward. Again, be somebody that they can rely and depend on to provide them with what they need, and then you're able to move up the ladder.
Thanks.
You know, Rick, Dan touched on analytics, and that's something back in the day we used to call it statistics. Now it's analytics, and there's a lot more information out there available. I remember back in the day, you know, the Maple Leafs, you either saw them on Saturday night at home, and you might get the odd game on a Wednesday night. Now, all the teams across the league are available. So there's information out there, there's the data, there's the stats. You know, the traditional individual that used to work in the hockey industry that had to have played, not the case anymore. I mean, you look at the roles within hockey ops, they've expanded so much that, you know, if you didn't play, it doesn't mean there isn't an opportunity for you.
No question. Totally agree. I mean, there are a number of people that I run into every day at the professional level, and they never played, but they're smart people. They work hard, and they've taken advantage of the opportunities they've been provided with.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to Eric. Eric, go ahead with an introduction and then question or comment you have for Rick Curran.
Hey, how's it going? Eric Beaudry from Sudbury, Ontario. Mike, just wanted to say I ran into JJ from the Dallas Stars, told me to say hey.
Very good.
So yeah, we're networking that way, getting to watch lots of hockey. But now for recruiting, Rick, what's a good way to recruit your organization and I don't know, bring in your kids, because we just graduated from the GM and scouting course, and I'm currently scouting for the West Nipissing Lynx, which is the Greater Metro Hockey League. And it's a harder league to recruit for because it's non-sanctioned hockey. So
Right.
I'm just trying to, I guess, figure out the ups and downs of what I can show to the parents and the kids to come over.
Well, I think, the first thing you have to recognize, Eric, is if you're putting yourself out there as someone who's going to be able to provide something to the parent and to the young prospect, obviously you have to have knowledge of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And of course, you're going to want to be thoroughly vested in the area of where you are. You're going to want to know as much as you can about the team that you happen to watch as often, the league. What you're going to have to do is put yourself in a position that you can provide parents at that level with the information that they need, without having to go to the social sites to learn. You're going to provide them with the facts. You're going to provide them with the clear and concise details of what challenges they're going to have, what challenges their son is going to have. If he wants to get to the next level, where are the tryouts? Who are the teams he's going to want to have to try out for? How can you go about providing that opportunity for them? So it's at every level. And then, of course, as I suggest during the various sessions we're going to have, try to help provide information that you can go from one level to the next, whether it be midget hockey, bantam hockey to midget hockey, what the challenges are, where does that player want to get to? Your job, if you want to be an effective player agent, is to know what those details are and be able to communicate it to the parents and the player.
So like I was thinking about making a brochure about the organization with the ups and downs, so that I don't want to say it'll help me know more of the knowledge, but then also all the knowledge of what I need to know is there given to them on paper or whatever, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's obviously, it's important that you have those specifics, but what is just as important is your FaceTime with those people. They're going to have a relationship with you. You're going to want to establish a level of trust so that they not only trust that you have knowledge, but they have trust that what you're saying to them is the truth. And you have to be honest with them about what their realistic chances are, of what level can you realistically suggest that they can achieve.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Very good. Let's continue on. We're going to go to JC, who's joined us here. JC, go ahead with a quick introduction and then question or comment you have for Rick Curran, who's involved with SMWW, teaching the hockey agent course. Have we got you with us here, JC? JC might have he might be in class too, Rick. We've got a couple of folks that are in class, so they're doing double duty. We'll go to James. James, welcome to you. Go ahead with a introduction and then question or comment you have.
Hi, Rick. I'm
Hi,
a
James.
pleasure to meet you. I'm a stats student at UNC Chapel Hill, QMJHL scout for Dobber Prospects. And I was wondering, how does somebody best improve themselves to become an asset to an NHL team or an agency like yours?
Well, I think that the most important thing you can do is take advantage of wherever you're living, what opportunities are there, at any level. Again, what you want to do is you want to get as much experience as possible. And you want to become involved with the people of the organization. You want to provide them with asset value. What it really comes down to is when you're approaching an organization, whether it's another agency or a team, you have to show them what your asset value is. You have to be able to provide them with some information where they're sitting there and they say, what are you contributing? What can you contribute to our organization? So before you even talk to them, you have to assess what abilities you have and assess what it is that they may need that you think you can provide them.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
In essence, Rick, it's really no different than a player. You know, like if you're a player, you have to show the GM and the coach why you deserve a full-time role on the team and what you're going to bring. And for people that work off the ice in front office, it's the same thing. What skills and abilities do you have? What functions can you provide that are going to help everybody, team individually, have additional success?
And you know, something else to consider, and I mentioned this to someone a couple of weeks ago. There's the son of one of my former clients who had played in the National Hockey League for a good 15 years. His son is getting involved in the business. He's already a scout for a major junior team in Western Canada, but he would like to transition over to becoming an agent. And I told his dad when we were chatting, and I'd had the opportunity to talk with the young man himself, I said, the experience that you have right now and continue to enjoy as a scout with any major junior team, consider that not only are you developing your own ability to assess and recognize a level of talent that would be necessary for you to play in major junior hockey, but to take it to the next level of playing pro hockey. And as well, the people that you are meeting, the colleagues that you have in the scouting fraternity, those are people that you're going to refer back to years from now as a player agent, because you already have not only a relationship with them, but you have a recognition of their capability. Over the years, I had a dozen scouts, National Hockey League scouts, and when I was in juniors recruiting back in the 80s, there were a number of major junior scouts that I would refer to. And if I had a dozen scouts that I would spend time with at both levels, obviously there would be 5 or 6 whose talents and history of success would suggest that they're the people that I would listen to and focus on what they had to say to me, the players that they would suggest I should be watching, the attributes of a player that I should be looking for, and the differences of a player that might be a successful major junior player, but not necessarily a successful pro. Those are the things that you learn. And as I was saying to this young man earlier, the people that you meet in those relationships will serve you well in the agent business later on, because you can refer back to them for suggestions and recommendations of players that they should start to look at.
Mm-hmm. No, that's some great insight, James. That covers everything for you.
Yes, it does. Thank you. I appreciate you taking the
Good
time.
luck, James. Yep.
Thank you.
Perfect. Let's go to Jarrett. Jarrett, welcome. Come on in. Go ahead with an introduction and then a quick question or comment you have for Rick Curran.
Yeah, perfect. Yes, I'm Jarrett. I'm in Alberta as well, kind of close to the other guy there, just down in Ponoka, a little bit north of Red Deer. And I'm just really kind of getting into the hockey scene. Grew up playing in it. Like that was my life for a solid 20 years, right? I got kids that are kind of getting to the age of getting into it now. So I guess that was it kind of got me thinking of getting more involved into it as, potentially a career path down the line. And I guess kind of the big question would be even, as a parent, what are something that you kind of generally see people looking for, as far as insight goes, that you could kind of maybe give them as a player agent to actually help them develop a younger kid into something that would be, effective at the next stage?
Well, here's what happens. When I meet a parent, I always tell them, I said, listen, you know your son better than anyone ever will. I will treat your son as if he is my own son in terms of how I will approach him and be honest about my assessment and be able to relay to you the things that you have to be thinking about as you go forward. And you as a parent, if you and I were dealing and when talking about your son, I would have taken advantage of an opportunity to watch him play. And depending on how old he is, making my own personal assessment of his skill level. There are things that I always watch for in a young player. And it's becoming more challenging today than it ever was when I first started, because the players that you're watching are so much younger. How old is your son?
I have a 7-year-old, so I'm not really asking like for him as a parent.
Sure.
I mean more so when you get into kind of the
But
agent thing
even,
of,
Jared, even if you're looking at, like when I started recruiting in the 80s, I mean, I was looking at a player with the idea in mind, does he have the ability to play major junior hockey or NCAA college hockey?
yeah.
That's where it would start. And if you had a group of players that you felt were capable of playing at that level, as time went on, you would assess whether they have an opportunity to get to the next level. So that's kind of how it would be for me. Now, my son, Michael, and the other group of young guys that work with us, they're looking at 13 and 14-year-olds, which is so difficult. It's such a challenge. And what they do is they'll look at the skill level, mostly the skating. When they watch them play, from a skill level standpoint, they watch to see, do they play with other players? Are they more individual? You can't hide certain skill level and talents. After a while, you'll recognize whether they have the mental ability to know the game, to play the game. And once, as a player agent, you've assessed an individual, the next step is to be honest enough, sitting down with a parent, in suggesting where you think a future may or may not be. Now, keep in mind, there's a difference between you approaching a parent and suggesting that you've watched their son play and you'd like an opportunity to sit down and talk to them. That means that you've already accepted in your own mind that this young player has a certain measure of ability and talent. The next thing you're doing is you're taking that next step to approach the parents. Now, that differs from a parent who happens to be standing there and asks you your assessment of the player. And you have to, as an agent, you have to be honest enough to provide that to them. They may need some skating. We had a camp last year, and I had that conversation with parents. I suggested that their son he's a big boy. He has a real keen aptitude for the game. He's smart. He's a good playmaker, but he's an age that his feet, his body has grown so quickly that his skating needs a lot of work. And I told him, I said, if he wants to have any measure of success, he needs to you need to invest some time and effort in power skating. Because regardless of how smart he is, if he can't get there ahead of everyone else, it's not going to do him as much good as it would otherwise. So those are the types of things that you can help. Now, as a 7-year-old, there's not much you could say. If he's a whiz bang, the only thing that I would suggest is I want your name and number, and I'm going to tell you I'll be calling you in another 2 or 3 years.
So that's some good advice. Jared, I trust that covers everything.
Yeah, I think so. It kind of just comes back to being honest with people to temper expectations, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. Let's go to Jeff. Jeff, welcome to you this afternoon. Go ahead with an introduction and then a question or comment you have for Rick Curran.
Hey, Rick. Nice to see you again.
Jeff, how are you?
Good, good. Sorry, I had some technical difficulties getting on here, so I'm not sure what questions were asked, but one of the things that I wanted to get your insights on were the CHL versus NCAA and, as you're giving advice to your clients and what you think, how you think things are really going to shape out. I was reading an article today where they're talking about, unless you're a superstar, these kids who are moving to the NCAA, it's just too early if you're trying to go at 18. So there's still a big play for the CHL. But just wondering what your thoughts are, how things are playing out there.
Jeff, we kind of touched on this a little earlier, and I'll be perfectly frank. I'm not as well versed in what the new rules are going to be. I haven't had an opportunity to digest them properly. My son handles all of that. He and William and Dougie Orr that works with us, and that's what they do. If there's one thing that's important as an agent, is don't try to provide someone with something that you don't know what you're talking about. And so you've asked the question. It's a great question. It's something that I just happened to be talking to Michael about recently. He's going to come on within our 8 sessions to talk about those specifics and how important it is to recognize what the advantages and the limitations are of both of those options. When I started in the business and I met with 15-year-olds, the rules were so much different, as Mike would know. The biggest concern I had was that if you were a marginal player, perhaps a late developer, you should really focus on NCAA college hockey. If you were an elite athlete and you were in a position to perhaps be a top selection in the midget draft, then and you were going to be able to get your education guaranteed and things of that nature, then obviously it was a direction that you could focus on a little more. It's something that's starting. Mike knows from his end of the business, it's just as confusing to them as it is for the parents. It's going to take a year or two to work itself out. But again, Michael and Dougie and some of the guys that work with me, they're going to spend some time during the classes to be able to explain that. And I'd rather they do it because they know what it is. I don't know enough about it right now, quite frankly.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
All right. And it's the biggest thing, Rick, is, and it's the same when you have changes to rules and policies, no different than with CBAs. When you get new CBAs with the NHL and the NHLPA, what you think how it's gonna unfold, sometimes once you get into it, you realize, oh, here, we didn't realize this aspect or this component. And I think it's the same can be said for the new rules that have been put in place by the NCAA. So it'll be a learning process.
Absolutely, Michael. And a big part of the classes, I think it's the 3rd or 4th week, what we talk about is with the collective bargaining agreement, the relationship between the agent industry and the collective bargaining, the NHL Players Association. And we talk a little bit about those few changes in the collective bargaining agreement that had such a tremendous impact on the agent industry. And just as it has in the past and will continue to at the professional level, the changes that are going on right now at the junior and the college level are going to have a net effect. And again, that's why it's important that if you're going to get some advice from someone, make sure it's someone who's relatively updated and recognizes what the ramifications are of those new rules and how it might affect a young student athlete.
Yeah, just as an example from my perspective, I've had some players and parents ask me about courses for NCAA, and I said, listen, I don't know, and I don't want to be found guilty of giving you incorrect or inaccurate information. It's important for you to do your due diligence with the schools you're talking to, with the clearinghouse, because that's not my expertise. So, you have to make sure before you act, before you speak, make sure you know what you're talking about. So that's good advice, Rick.
Actually, absolutely, Michael. I know that my son Mike just got back from a trip in Ontario, and they had sessions, the agent sessions, where they had an opportunity to hear from the Ontario Hockey League how to manage from the Ontario Hockey League's end on some of these new rules. And Michael recognizes that one of his most important duties now will be to sit down with parents and help guide them through what those rules are from both sides, to make sure that a parent does not mistakenly commit himself to something without knowing exactly what it's all about. And as a player agent, if that's what you want to become, that's one of your biggest responsibilities, is be able to provide that information. So you better know what that information is.
Yeah. Let's go to Jim. Jim, go ahead. Introduction and then question or comment you have.
Yeah, my name is Jim Mercer. I'm from Bowmanville, Ontario. I guess my question sort of piggybacks Jarrett's. I was just going to ask you, Rick, as far as being an agent, you're in the people business, you're representing the players, but I mean, there's obvious criteria, I'm sure, when you're looking at a player, but do you look at the character and the values because they're representing you as well? Do you ever take that
Absolutely.
approach? Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, it's a funny thing. I've been asked over the years, you know, what are things you look at? What have I learned? What have I looked at? As a skill level as a player, I used to call it the poise factor. And just to use an example, I remember years ago, I went to see a junior B game, and it was in Whitby, where I lived at the time. And I was watching a young player, and what I realized is that I saw him right away. And after 2 periods, I thought, geez, this kid's a hell of a player. I was aware of him, but I'd never seen him play. And what I realized as I was watching the game is that he was 2 years younger than everybody else. But he had the poise. You would have thought he was a veteran player, the way he handled himself. And you just knew when you looked at him that he had this ability. And then the next thing you look for is, how does he handle himself on the ice? Now, he was a defenseman, but you watched, as an extension of his skill level, you watched how the other players he played with, you watched, you know, their reaction to him. Even though he was 2 years younger, the respect they showed for him.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because that player was Adam Foote.
There you go.
He was 15 years old. Okay. And I always remember years later, when you talk about a player like that, years later, I would be talking to a client who was playing against him. And he mentioned, he said, you know, he said, there's nothing worse than having the coach call over to you and say, you're up, and you stand up and you look down, and at the other bench, Adam Foote's getting ready to come on the ice. And you're like, I just don't feel like putting up with his bullshit today. I just don't feel like having to handle that.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's the respect that a player attains over time. And I'm just going back to the fact that you could see that Adam Foote had that. The other point that I would say to you that I always look at is when you've got a really good player and you can tell when he's on the ice, he's got the puck, he does the different things that he's doing, the skill level that he shows. How do his teammates react? You know, does he pass the puck off to a teammate and take the assist instead of the goal when the opportunity is there? Does he do that? If he scores the goal, are his teammates happy for him? Do you see them genuinely rally with him?
Yeah.
Okay. You can see that. The one thing I always try to tell young players and older players, when you're on the ice, you want to be the best player you can be. You want to do what you can because you want to please your coach, because your coach is the one that determines whether you're going to get to play or not. You're going to want to please management because they make some of the decisions about what opportunities you might be provided going forward. But I used to tell my son when he was playing, the most important thing you can do, you want to be the guy that everybody wants to play with, because you can't fool your teammates.
That's right.
If every guy in the team wants to be on your line, that means you're doing a good job. That means you're doing what you need to do, because you can't fool the players.
Excellent.
And
Okay,
I
thank you.
watch on the ice, and you can tell who the players like to play with. And you can
Fantastic.
also tell when they don't give a shit if a guy scores or not, because they're not real excited about it. And
So
that's a problem.
So sorry, when you see a player like Adam Foote and that, so that speaks to, I guess, part of his upbringing, obviously, just the way he carries himself. And
Very,
that all
very
has to
much
matter,
so.
right? Yeah.
Very much so. And you know, Jim, things have changed a lot. And I talk about this in a couple of our sessions. The recruiting process, the parents. I was very, very fortunate when I had the group of clients I had, particularly in the 80s. And people would ask me, Jesus, how did that happen? I mean, how were you fortunate enough to have such a great group of young players? The Adam Graves, the Shannon brothers, Brendan Shanahan, players that were Gary Roberts, quality players and people.
Yeah.
And I always go back, I say, all you had to do is look at their parents. Paul Corson and John Marchman were two of the toughest people I've ever met in my life. Okay. If you think Brian Marchman was a tough player or Shane Corson was a tough player, all you had to do is meet their dads. Okay. And if you meet people like that, they were so damn honest, it was scary. And
Yeah.
I would get up every morning wanting to do everything I could for their son, but I wanted to do it for them too, because they had given up so much to provide the opportunity for their sons to play. And I mean, it's a little bit of a long-winded
No, that was
response
excellent.
to your
Thank you.
question, but it encompasses everything that's so important when you're recruiting. And
Yeah.
I have to tell you this too. I miss that. I miss those parents. I miss the loyalty that they showed in those days. I miss the dedication and the sacrifice that they made for their sons to be successful.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Some great insight in it. The times have changed, definitely, Rick. A little different. You're dealing with a different group, and as that happens, you have to sometimes adjust. So, but you don't want to compromise your values and your morals. That's for sure. Let's go to Ken. Ken, go ahead. Quick introduction, and then question or comment you have for Rick.
Awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. My name is Ken Dahl. I'm in Calgary, home of the Flames, and just down the road from the Oilers. Love hockey. Been watching since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. Played to midget, and that's as far as I got. But anyway, still follow and love the game. I'm a longtime experienced financial planner. And while being an agent would be a great gig, I would like to work with agents. And I know, and Rick, I'm sure you'll attest to this, these players have thousands of people after them to invest their money and invest in different opportunities and so on. And I characterize that as the offensive side of the financial industry. You want to grow and expand your wealth and build your money and all that, and that's the offense, and you certainly need that, and that's very important. But I work on the defensive side. I do not manage money. I help people protect their money and build lifelong income. And this came out of working with a current NHL player whose father was an investment advisor. He brought me in as the planner to build a lifelong plan for his son to make sure that he would have lifelong income. So I see, correct me if I'm wrong, but I really see a void on the defensive side of financial planning. In the last few years, 8 NHL or former NHL players have had to declare bankruptcy, and in addition to being incredibly sad, it's totally unnecessary. And so I'm really asking, do you think there's a role for somebody who would work with players or with it through their agents to help them protect their money and make sure that they have money forever and that they don't go and get into dangerous situations like that lead to bankruptcy.
Absolutely, Ken. Let me just share with you very quickly some stories. When I first started in the business, Eagleson was our boss, and then in 1980, Bill Waters and I left Eagleson and formed our own company. At the time, we had a full financial management service. That was contract negotiation for 3% and financial management for 2%. And we offered it to all of our clients. When I bought Bill Waters out, when he went flipped tables and went to the management side with the Toronto Maple Leafs, the first thing I did was I got rid of the financial management. I felt that if I recruited your son, I was providing him with what I felt I could contribute to his well-being as a player agent, level of communication. But I felt that there were 4 or 5 very capable financial management people. And I felt it was important that just as they had interviewed 2 or 3 different agents, they should have the opportunity to interview 2 or 3 different financial management people and accept who they were most comfortable to work with. Because the level of communication, I don't have to tell you, the level of communication between that financial manager and the parents and the player and the player's wife becomes the most important part of that whole relationship. So we would we would have no financial interest from whomever they chose as their financial manager. What we would do is sit back and we would provide them with 3 or 4 people to meet with, and they had good reputations, and we knew we weren't endorsing any one over the other, and we received no money or payment whether that client chose them one way or the other. But that also allowed me the opportunity that if I could sniff out something that I didn't like, I could call them directly and say what's going on. If I felt all of a sudden a player was spending money where he shouldn't be, and I recognized that it was heading, I could call that financial manager and put him on the spot and say what's going on. And I would say that the biggest challenge was the wife, was getting them, they would be on a budget, and getting her to recognize that the money that they had as 24 and 25-year-olds, it would not necessarily be that type of income when they're in their late 30s or 40s, depending on the ability of the player. And it's not what you were making, it's what you're spending. I don't have to say it to you, you know. But in answer to your question, the biggest challenge was the level of communication in helping to make those people realize that the income that they were receiving would not last forever. And it was important to have people outside our agency be able to provide that. And even today, you know, I've run into a situation where I've had to sit down with a guy and say, you have to change your spending habits. And the other end of it is, more often than not, if there's somebody that's running amok financially, his playing ability, you can usually see it in his playing ability, because he's out doing something he shouldn't be doing far too often than he is. And it's affecting his ice.
That's another side of it too, that I think there's an opportunity to have what I would call a financial coach for the teams. The teams, they have all kinds of psychologists and nutrition.
Well, the clubs
people.
are doing a much better job of bringing people in, but the individual player still has to.
Yeah. How would I break into this just to not take too much time? But how would I get referrals?
Well, I think
from agents?
I don't know. I don't think it's an opportunity now to talk about it, Ken, but
no.
But if you happen to be part of the program, I'd be more than happy that we can take some
Okay.
time and talk about that when I talk about opportunities for members of the class.
Awesome. Well, we'll do that. Thanks, Rick.
Yeah,
Appreciate
just
it.
remind me when the time comes, for sure.
Yeah.
We've had a great 55 minutes. I'm going to go to Madison, and then for the others that we haven't got to, I think we've probably getting to the point where maybe we're going to be asking some of the similar questions before we wrap up. So, if anybody below Madison here alphabetically and you haven't been called upon and you have a specific question that hasn't been asked, raise your hand and we'll get to you before we close out tonight. So, Madison is already agreed to bypass her. I think she's got some barking dogs, but it sounds like she's enjoying the session here. We'll go to Naomi, and then after that, if you have a question, use your hand, and then we'll get to you. So Naomi, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Naomi. I'm an exercise sports science student at UNC Chapel Hill, and I was wondering if it would be a good idea to go to law school to become a sports agent, and also if you could like describe a normal day of working as a NHL agent.
Naomi, I will tell you that when I started in the business, before I started in the business, I had aspirations to go to law school. I never had that opportunity. Okay. Without getting into the specifics, when I was in my senior year at college, the opportunity to become business manager, Team Canada in the business presented itself and I grabbed it. At the same time, my son, Michael, he did go to law school, and he was fortunate enough to spend time with me in the summertime while I was going through contract negotiations. He would be there. He learned the business by being there in the room, listening to my conversations, being part of helping prepare notes and things. But he made the decision to go to law school, and it was a good decision. I think it teaches you discipline. I think that there are a number of attributes to the legal profession that lends itself to being a player agent. I know that he handles certain situations differently than I do. I'm not going to say whether it's better or not, but it's certainly better for him. I will add that years ago, Bill Waters called me into his office and told me that the change I had to make was to be myself and not to try to be him. And it was the best advice I could ever be given. And I've said the same thing to Michael: be what you are, be yourself. So he has a certain discipline. In answer to your question, I definitely think that any opportunity, experience you can have at law school will do you well. It doesn't guarantee success as an agent, but it certainly couldn't hurt by going to law school.
Very good. Let's go to Rick. Rick, go ahead. You got your hand up. You got a question for another Rick? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure do. Sure do. I'm
Oh,
from
there he is. How are you, Rick?
North Bay. Hi, Rick. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
It's actually been a pleasure. I've actually had both of you guys as instructors. Mike, way back in 2007 in the hockey
Yep.
agent course. It's pretty cool to have you guys. My question is there an app or a program to track my prospects?
Yes, there is. I'll tell you what, Rick, you have my email address, I believe, correct? Yep. You send me an email and I'll be able to send you the app that my son uses to track all of our prospects. I can
Okay,
look every morning on, it's not an app, it's something I go online, and I can tell how each client, every morning, Bobby, my partner Bobby Orr, and I, we have a conversation between 7 and 7:30. He's already been up at 5:36 because he gets up early. And by the time we talk, he knows how every client we've had, how they've played the night before, what their ice time has been, plus minus, and in some cases, their time on ice. So it's a wonderful program, and I'll send that to you, Rick.
Fantastic. And you're going to be up to Primetime Sports?
No, I'm not going to be able to make that trip, quite frankly.
Oh, okay.
Not this year. Yeah,
All right. Say hi to Bobby.
I will. Nice to see you again.
Thanks.
All right, let's get to Sander. Sander, go ahead. We've got 4 more questions here, Rick, and then we'll wrap up. So, Sander, go ahead.
Hey Rick, I just wanted to ask, throughout your time as an agent, how has like the role sort of changed, especially now that we have NIL, that's been like the most recent addition. How do you see that changing like the landscape of an agent, and just how have you seen it change throughout your career?
Yeah, Sander, I think, you know, you're still, your responsibility is to be able to provide a level of communication that provides the parents and their son with value. So as times are changing and it's becoming more complex, trying to make a decision about whether you should be an NCAA student athlete, whether you should play major junior, again, you have to be in a position to provide that information. And that also comes from having the opportunity to watch the player play, because there's nothing worse than alluding to a young prospect's ability to play in the National Hockey League if after watching him play, it's pretty evident he's not going to get to that level. So what you're going to want to do is encourage them to challenge themselves to a level that they can reasonably attain. So in answer to your question, you have to be able to spend the time and put the effort in to be able to provide that information, that level of communication.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Let's go to Tomer. Tomer, go ahead. Introduction and quick question or comment.
Hi, Rick. Hi, Mike. My name is Tomer. I'm the current head of player tracking and analytics for Ice Hockey New Zealand.
Wow. Okay.
The question I have is a bit twofold. As someone who's represented players throughout their careers, how do you balance evaluating the on-ice ability and the long-term potential and off-ice character? And then from a career perspective, what advice would you give to someone early on in scouting who wants to build the same kind of sustainable path and reputation that you have?
Well, as to the first question, you know, it's why don't you repeat the question so I can get a sense of where I can go with this for you? Just quickly, go ahead.
How do you balance the player's on-ice ability with the long-term potential and character off-ice?
Okay, so what you want to do when you first start watching them, and again, it depends on how old they are. If you're fortunate enough to attain them as recruit them as a young enough client, you're going to watch them grow through 2 or 3 years, and you're going to get a sense of their ability to improve or not improve. And as that occurs, you're going to be in a better position to give them some guidance as to what is reasonably achievable. What level of hockey should they reasonably be able to challenge themselves with? And then you have to be honest enough with them to give them that information. And they have to be able to accept that for what it is, which again is a whole other issue, because there are too often that you tell people what they need to know, but because it's not what they wanted to hear, they're not willing to listen. And that obviously presents a problem. And the character, well, it lends itself to any business. The character of a person, their ability to listen, and their recognition of respect for the advice and guidance they're being given, that's all part of it as well. So
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Andrew. Andrew, introduction, quick question or comment.
Hi, my name is Andrew. I live in New York. I took the how to become an agent course back in 2000, I believe, right around there. So I've been a hockey agent for about 5 years now. I've reached a certain level, but I was wondering just to get some advice how to kind of break through. I've gotten as far as the East Coast. Very, a little bit of experience with the AHL, but how do you take that next step? anything that would be helpful to try to get over the hump?
The quick answer, Andrew, is if you've been successful enough to attain some clients, you have some clients, what you would
Yes.
want to do is you would approach a company, a current company, and you're walking in the door and it's your opportunity to present to them how you can bring value to their company. If those clients you've recruited have value, they can play. They have the potential to play in the National Hockey League. They have the potential to sign a professional contract. That's what you're bringing to the table. That's really what it's all about, is bringing value. We're approached daily from different people with asking for opportunities, and we don't do internships. And so I honestly just say to them, look, you bring us a young client who's capable of playing, and you show that, and we recognize it, then you could be part of our operation, but you have to bring value. Because today, the way the game is with recruitment, you're recruiting people at 13, 14 years old. You've got 5 or 6 years of babysitting. You've got as much as 7 to 8 years before you're going to make profit $1. And there's no guarantee that 14-year-old will ever provide profit $1. And there's no guarantee that when that player attains the ability and the opportunity to sign the contract, that you're going to be the agent that negotiates the deal.
Well, unfortunately, I've had that happen already, so I
I'm
kind of know
sure.
what. Yeah, it's hard to figure out the talent of a 15-year-old, if he's going to be able to play it. And obviously, I had a really high-profile player just kind of leave me right in the middle of everything. So I know that stuff kind of happens. Lastly, what would you think about like a consulting player development part of the game is heading? Everything is all encompassing on ice, off ice. You think that's become a lot bigger now? It'll continue to grow?
Well, it's certainly become bigger. It's because you're approaching players at such a younger age. It's all part of what you're suggesting you're going to provide the player and his parents. The issue is, do you have the economic wherewithal to sustain yourself for 4 or 5 years of babysitting when you're not getting paid for it? And I know that there are people out there that do charge, and that's up to them, but we don't charge anyone to do that, and that's the risk that you're going to take.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, to close things out, before some final comments, let's go to Patrick.
Rick, hi, Mike. I just a quick question on how to once you jump into the course here. I'll be taking the course in December. I was a little late to get into this block, but I will probably get into the December block. How early or for the when you apply for a team for an NHL or a scout or a GM position, like for the scouting part of things? How early or how much time do you have to apply for all of that to get in?
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand, Patrick. Are you asking because there's no age, I wouldn't suggest there's an age. I think what happens is if you, regardless of whether you're getting into scouting or you want to be an agent, what you want to do from day one is get yourself involved in the local hockey area and take advantage of whatever opportunity presents itself. If you're looking to get into scouting, if you have an opportunity to scout for a junior B team or which lends itself to maybe a major junior organization, that's how you get started in the scouting business. As we've talked about and we'll continue to talk about in the sessions, if you want to be a player agent, you actually get involved at watching 13 and 14-year-olds and hopefully come up with a player or two that others have missed, and introduce yourself to the parents and attain a client and put yourself in a position that either you're able to continue to represent them or you can bring them to the doorstep of an established agency and provide value to them.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rick, before Nick comes on and closes things out, just one last question I have for you as we close out. I think a great hour and a bit, understanding the agent industry and whatnot. But the SMWW courses, you're involved in the hockey GM. Myself, I'm involved in, or sorry, you're the hockey agent. I'm the hockey GM and scouting and the hockey analytics, and there's player development. And also the conferences. Maybe just talk, you're somebody that's joined the SMWW family a couple of years ago. The benefits to people that have an interest in getting their foot into the hockey industry from being involved in one of the programs or attending the courses or the conferences. As somebody that's been in the industry, maybe just a couple of quick points about the benefits of being involved in the program and attending the conferences.
Well, I will tell you that let me just quickly say this. This is what we do in the agent sessions. We talk about the attributes necessary to be a successful agent. We go through the history of the agent business. We talk about the history of the Players Association, from Eagleson all the way through to Marty Walsh. We talk about the transition of that history, the relationship with the PA, how it's contributed to the agent industry and makes you a better agent. They create the CBA is the fabric of our working environment. We focus on the changes that have taken place over the last 40 to 50 years. And we talk about client recruiting, and we try to talk about all of those areas. And what it lends itself to is that I've had people that have attended my sessions and then have also done the coaching sessions, the scouting sessions, every opportunity that you have to become involved in the hockey industry, regardless of what level it's been and what area, all will enhance the possibility of success in staying and working within the hockey industry. As I will allude to in some of our sessions, there are a number of people that worked in management that became that's crossed over to the agent business. There are a number of Players Association employees that became agents or worked in the management. There are a number of agents who have now become part of the management business. So the relationships, the crossovers are all critically important. And any experience that you can have with one class and knowledge that you attain will only enhance in your opportunity with anything else that you might want to be involved in.
Perfect, Rick. That wraps it up for you and I. Great seeing you again. It's hard to believe that we're well into it here with the major junior and juniors minor hockey started, but the NHL wrapping up the preseason. The games get for real here next week. But great seeing you, and look forward to seeing you at the rink here over the course of the winter. And that wraps it up for you and I, and we'll pass it over to Nick and the SMWW crew.
Thanks, Michael. And the only thing that I would add for those of you that are interested in taking the course, there's two facets. There's the course, the sessions that you're given each week. But if you really want to get something out of it, try to attend our Zoom session. The more people that are involved, the interaction, the questions, the stories, I think that you really get the true benefit of the course itself if you're able to attend those weekly sessions.
Nick, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike and Rick, and thank you for both of you for taking time out of a busy day to be with us and show you valuable insights. We definitely do appreciate that. With that being said, I'm going to bring on Mikkel, one of SMWW's career advisors. So Mike and Rick, if you guys want to stay, you can. If not, you guys are free to go. Mikkel is one of our career advisors, and we're here today to answer any more questions you guys have about what SMWW has to offer, whether it has to do with the classes, the degree. We have sponsorship degree programs and the conferences as well. So Mikkel, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank all of you guys for joining our session today. Hopefully it was very insightful. I actually took one of the soccer agent courses back in 2015, and coming from a career as a pro soccer player and now a full-time agent and also being a sports career advisor, and I also teach some of the soccer courses here. I think one thing that's really important for all of you guys to understand is uh, networking. Networking is key to, to gain your knowledge, but also to become successful, right? If your network is big, guess what? You're gonna have a big book of business, right? But also for you guys that want to become agents, whether it be in hockey or any other sport, you're as good as your client. Okay, if you have a good client, you're gonna be a better agent as well. If you have a lackluster client and it's gonna take you a lot of time to even have a team answer your phone call regarding that particular client, that's going to hurt your image and that's going to hurt your business before it even started. So, like Rick alluded to earlier, like recruitment is super crucial, right? Know what you have in your back pocket, know what your aces are, and build from that. Once you gain that momentum, you guys will be, well on your way. And obviously, maybe you don't know it from now right off the bat, but once you start getting into, some of our courses, whether it be with Rick or with Mike, you're going to learn a lot about how to navigate the landscape of this industry. Because if you don't know, it's like the blind leading the blind, right? And that's what we are here for, right? So if you have any questions, if you want to become successful within the business, take one of our courses, get familiar with our program, but also get familiar with the industry because you don't know what you don't know. And for some of you guys want to, get your master's or doctorate degree, we do have a program, a CUC program as well, that can help you tremendously. Maybe you don't want to go to law school, but you do want to get your master's or your doctorate in sports management or sports leadership. We do offer that as well.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, there's no one size fits all model. Everybody comes from different places. Some people's were players and got in that way. Some people are more analytical and they got in that way as well. And I know we had a question that wasn't able to be answered previously, but Mikhail, you can also help out with this as well. It's like what are mistakes that are used that you see in like young professionals, and what's the best way to break into hockey or in any sport in that sense, and how to avoid it. And I know for personally, what I would say is when you're going through down the line, a lot of people need to figure out, I need this, I need this, I need this, and I need this, and I need this. There's nobody like you. You have your own background, you have your own story. That's what makes you unique. And using that to your best advantage. If you're a personable person, go out there and network, get it. You can have a really big network that way. And maybe you're going to be more of a face-to-face type of person and being able to pivot roles that way. I mean, there's many examples of people going in, I want to be I want to be a agent. And then they get into the working like, maybe this isn't right for me, but I've gained a lot of connections. Maybe I want to be more of a scout inside because in order to be agent, you kind of have to be a decent scout. So then you being able to pivot and not just, fall flat on your face based on trying to drive forward towards this one direction. Not saying that that's not a wrong approach, but this the ability to be able to pivot and take what opportunities present you, like Rick was saying earlier. I mean, that's what's going to really make you special, make you shine, and be able to get you to the place where you need to be able to get to. And obviously, like having like with the networking stuff that SMWW does is we have you guys do informational interviews. It's a great way for you to be able to go out there into the industry and connect with these high profile people using the SMWW name, using Rick's name, using Mike's name, and being able to say, hey, can I get 10 minutes of your time? And then you end up getting 45. I mean, I've taken a couple courses and I've asked for 10, 15 minutes and I've gotten at least 45 minutes on both of those. And these are guys who are directors of research and development for an NFL team, a managing scouting director for, a baseball team as well. And there's many other examples, and it doesn't just hurt to ask. So, do you have anything to add on that, Mikhail?
Yeah, I think also knowledge is key, right? If you have the experience in terms, for example, you want to get into marketing side or branding aspect of a sports organization, it's great. But if you do not know what organization, like an NHL organization, in this case, if you do not know what goes on behind closed doors or what their uh, view of marketing and branding is, it could be a very rude awakening, just because you have a master's in marketing and branding, not knowing how to apply that within the professional sports organization. It is really important. And obviously we do have these courses available for you, but that's not just with marketing. As an agent, as a scout, as you want to work in the front office, analytics, right? Analytics is there's so many opportunities in sports analytics because not everybody loves the analytical side of sports, right? So there is a lot of opportunity there, 100%. So just to round that up right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone who teaches the courses, you got a sneak preview today. Rick Curran, I mean, guy's a seasoned vet in the in the hockey industry. These are the type, and Michael Oak. I mean, he's a VP and GM of a OHL team. These are guys who live and breathe the stuff they're talking about each and every day. They're not just necessarily guys with fancy degrees. They're people who are actually industry professionals that are respected in the industry. And that's what's another key part of our programs is to be able to put you guys face to face, have weekly Zoom chats with them where you can ask them any question that you want based on that week's topic or what's going on, depending if you're in the season of the sport you're in. And so that's kind of the things that we do here. Is there any other, do you guys have any questions? General questions about our program, questions about our conferences, including the hockey one. We do it at the NHL draft each year, as this year we were in LA for that. So.
Any questions, guys?
Sander.
I guess the only question I would really have about that is there any sort of like scholarships or something I can apply for to help reduce the cost of programs? Because that's really the only thing that's sort of in question for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something that's normally you can send in an inquiry as well, and then you'll be normally once you fill in an application, it goes to one of our career advisors, and that would be some sort of conversation you'll have between you and your career advisor. And so Mikkel Suchi, he's one of our career advisors as well. And these people are not necessarily just to say like, hey, yeah, just take this course. I think it's good for you. These are people I want to say, what's your background? What are you trying to do with this? These are the courses. Maybe this is some avenue. I know a couple, job postings that I saw the other day on Teamwork Online that you should think about looking into. And these are the sort of things that our people are able to help provide you guys with free career advice. You just fill out an application and or call the office. We'll be able to have a conversation with you about what's best for you in your career in that sort of sense. But yeah, Sander, that to answer your question, that would be my best point of route in terms of that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
If you guys are interested at all, and Sandy, you can actually send that to the email that I just sent over to the chat. And then if you guys want to call the office directly, you guys are more free to. We're here. You would catch one of our career advisors or other staff on the at SMWW as well. And you can see that here. I also put our office number in there in the chat as well. So yeah. Do you have any other questions, Sander?
Oh, that was it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for hosting this event. It's really been great.
Of course. We go last call for questions. If not, then we'll end it here.
Thank you. That's it.
All right, guys.
All right. Thank you guys for coming again today. And thank you again to Mike and Rick for spending the time in order to speak with us. We're going to be rendering this video to go up and we can put it on our website so that we can be able to send the recording to you guys once it did. So I anticipate within the next few days, you'll be receiving an email probably from me with the recordings on that. So if you have any questions, more questions, feel free to reach us at info@smww.com or the phone number for the office below. And if you already have an application in, follow up with your career advisor if you want some more advice about how to break into industry or anything that we may be able to assist you with. With that being said, hope you guys have a great rest of your day and looking forward to hockey season coming up.
Bye, guys.